Hello everyone and welcome to the Geek Talk. Today we're going to do a tier list video where I am going to do something that is kind of cool, I hope, and maybe this will get more people, to recognize that I have a reaction series to Fullmetal Alchemist, but we're going to be doing the first 13 episodes and we're going to discuss what I think are the best fight scenes from those first 13 episodes. If you guys don't know about tier list videos, a really quick rundown, I'm basically just ranking all of the fight scenes from S tier, A tier, B, C, and D tier. D tier, of course, being the lowest, S tier being the highest. So let's get into it. So the first one we have is Alphonse versus the Homunculuses. Or homunculi. I don't actually know how to say that. And does anyone know in the comments below what the plural of homunculus is? This is the fight scene. This is actually one of the later fight scenes because this is in episode 13 itself. And I would say it's a pretty standard fare of a fight. I'm gonna put this right in the middle of B tier. Of course, I might reassess this as I get deeper and deeper into this whole tier list thing. But for now, I'm gonna say it's a B list tier. I mean, it was a cool little thing where the snake homunculus got inside Alphonse, started controlling him, but beyond that, not that much. I mean, the reason I'm so excited for this fight scene in particular is because Alphonse, we got to see him kick butt beyond just fighting Edward, which is what he was doing most of the time during the series. So that's why I like that the best, but I think it's definitely middle of the road for Fullmetal Alchemist. And then next up we have Alphonse versus Chopper. So when they went to the fifth when they went to the fifth laboratory, they fought some of these old death row prisoners who were basically fused with armor, very similar to how Alphonse was fused with armor. And I'm actually going to put this at the bottom, and not so much for the fight scene itself, because I think the fight scene itself probably is B tier and very middle of the road for Fullmetal Alchemist. But the reason I put this as my least favorite in terms of this first collection is because of the fact that Alphonse thought he really wasn't a real boy, and that really bugged me a lot, because I was like, how is he really gonna think that this is true, and how is he gonna let Barry get into his mind and let him affect his psyche in that way? I was really bothered by that. Again, if you want to see my reactions to that, I have a video of that here somewhere so you can see it. But yeah, I'm gonna put that at the bottom, not so much for the fight scene itself, which I think is just okay. I don't think it's great or anything like that, but because of the actual story element that came about from it. And then we have the other side of that fight. We have Edward versus Agent 48, or I think he was Prisoner 48 or Experiment 48. I forget what I just know his name is 48, but I forget if it was Experiment or Prisoner or whatever it is. This one I thought was, again, I think this is a middle of the road fight. However, I'm gonna put it in the A tier because of how clever Edward is. Now, what I love about this show in general is that Edward doesn't win his fights all that often. He's getting beat most of the time. He's usually outmatched, overmatched. But the way that he bridges that gap is by outsmarting his opponent. And I love that about any kind of franchise that applies wit beyond just being, I'm more powerful, I'm gonna freaking do my Hadouken on you better than you can Hadouken me. I love it when someone's clever. Of course the play he did was that saying that, oh, my brother's going to beat your friend faster, and that he's gonna come here any minute now, and then him calling out to Alphonse and then hitting him across the head. And also the idea that the guy was actually a twin, or two brothers. I don't know if they were twins or brothers, where one controlled the head and one was the body. But I think the fight scene itself was kind of whatever. To me, in terms of the actual choreography and some of the action, there was one point where the sword doesn't even move, when he was blocking Edward, and I was like, I've seen better stuff from you guys. But because of that element of the wit that Edward employed in that fight, puts it to the A tier for me. Next up, we have a very short scene. This is one of the training scenes between Edward and Alphonse, and I'm gonna put this in B tier, in the sense that I'm going to leave it there as a basis. However, I'm going to move it over to the A tier again because of story element. And this is mostly just on the back of, this is them being okay with each other, because this obviously happens after the fifth laboratory episode, where Alphonse finally realizes that he is a real boy, and how Edward gets mad at him for how can you ever think that I would make you and lie to you all this time, I love you, bro. But he doesn't say any of that. He says that through a fight scene, basically, I forgive you, via a fight scene. But I thought the fight scene itself was actually pretty cool in terms of some of the wide shots that were applied, and him using, again, Edward using distraction, using his wits to overcome his opponent. So yeah, A tier. And then we have the fight between the homunculus, what was his name, Greed versus Edward. This one I'm gonna put in S tier because one, it was really well choreographed, really cool dynamic fight to just look at, and it's eye pleasing. But again, freaking Edward using his freaking brain and applying science to the fight scene, because at one point I think Greed mentions, you know, something about his body, and then Edward figuring out that a third of the body is carbon, so that's how he was able to use his alchemy to break this guy's ultimate shield. Really dope. And also, of course, at the tail end of it, which is where I'm at in my reaction series right now, I haven't watched beyond. I actually don't know how this fight ends because Izumi, I forget how she pronounced her name, Izumi, Edward's teacher comes through and they're about to, you know, throw down. But I think in terms of majority of these fight scenes, this one was one of the ones that really got me like out of my chair and be like, that's awesome, that's really clever. So yeah, S tier. Next up, we have Priest Cornello versus Edward. This one, I'm gonna put this as like a mid-tier fight, mostly on the back of it's visually stimulating. It's visually cool, and all the fights, I should preface that right now that I think all the fights in this series have really killer shots and shot selection and beat and pacing in terms of the fight scenes, but for this one in particular, I don't really care too much for it, mostly because I didn't like when Cornello turned into that big like monster dude thing, and I was like, wait, what is happening here? I thought this was supposed to be like humans against humans, like alchemists against alchemists, and then I thought it was weird, like that priest episode in general. I was like kind of weirded out. So yeah, not bad though. I'll put it on the B tier though. B tier. Next up, we have Edward and Alphonse. No, I think this was just Edward. Edward versus Izumi. I have to figure out what her name is pronounced, man. I should like look it up right now. Like, is it Izumi or Izumi? Izumi? I think it's Izumi. This one, very short fight, but I actually think it's pretty cool. I don't think it would go past A tier. Like, I think B tier is a good place for it. But I remember it, you know, being it's a very short fight, and I like it because it's a spear fight. And a lot of times with anime or just modern anything, you're often just seeing sword play, and swords are like the best thing ever. But you know, pikes and spears have been used for centuries and centuries and centuries and eons in human history, and we don't see that a lot within fiction, I feel like. And in the way that it was used, I think was well done. Again, really awesome shots in this fight as well, and just seeing like how competent this lady is, and also how good Edward is up to this point, I think was a really cool thing for me to watch. And then we have another short fight which I like quite a bit. It's the one between Gluttony, Lust, and Scar, and I think I'm gonna put this one in the A tier. I really like this fight. It's super short. It has nothing to no over long thing. I think it takes 5 to 7 seconds. You know, he blasts his arm off, Lust comes in and gets him off to the side. But it's a really effective scene, especially because throughout the series so far in the first 13 episodes, we know that Scar is like pretty much one of the badasses of the badasses. Like he's like the top tier of the badasses, right? Like I think the only person who probably can fight him from what I've seen so far is Führer Bradley. But I don't know if that's going to happen. That fight might happen in the future. But yeah, it's really short, really quick, but really impactful to see like the competence of both Gluttony and Lust, like double teaming against Scar and actually putting him on his butt. Like he does actually lose that fight, technically speaking, even though he gets to escape and then the rubble and all that kind of stuff. Next up, we have Paninya versus Edward and Alphonse. This one's more of a comedic fight, but I do think it's actually pretty dope. I'm going to say it's mid-tier though. It might get to A tier for me just based alone on how big it's and the spectacle of how big the alchemy was that Edward was doing with all the rocks and like basically creating mountains to chase Paninya, but Paninya still being able to be competent to fight. And then of course Alphonse with the cage and everything. However, that really one element is the only reason I like the fight. The rest of it I think is pretty standard. So for that reason, I think I'm gonna slot it in the B tier slot. No, baby. No, we can't play right now. Come here. You want to be on camera again? Uche is going to be part of our video. All right, Uche. Our next one is that Brigader guy, the guy who made all the cannons, versus Scar. Which one do you think? Where do you think it goes? A, B, or C? A, B, or C? He's like, I don't want to be part of this, but you were meowing. You were meowing. Okay, you want to go? Go ahead. Go ahead. I'm gonna put this one in gonna put it in B. I think it's a standard fight. I think it's a standard Full Metal Alchemist fight. Again, it's very short. It's really just an introduction to Scar to see how competent he is, because he's facing off against a state alchemist and just working him. And I think I prefer more hand-to-hand fights, not so much with the guns and everything, but I'm not gonna knock it off for that. I don't think it's bad or anything like that. So yeah, gonna put this in the B mid-tier category. Then next up, we have Scar versus Alphonse and Edward. I think this is the first time that they meet each other. And again, I think this is also just kind of standard fare on this one. So I'm going to put that one in the B tier. Again, nothing really to knock. I did like some of the alchemy that was going on when they were running down the stairs and Scar, like, broke the staircase and Scar was chasing them down the street. But again, there's nothing that crazy. Matter of fact, I don't even know if it's even standard. I might put that as C, because I can't really think of much in this fight that was, emotionally it was great. Like, the part where Alphonse was telling Edward to like go away, but that's not really a judgment of the fight scene, because that kind of happens after the fight scene. So while I do like that element and how the fight scene ended in terms of like the narrative, I don't know if like the fight scene itself was like that impactful for me to be like, oh, let me put this like, higher. So yeah, I think C tier is pretty good for it. Oh, and then this one, I already know where I'm putting this one. This is the first fight. This is the freezer guy, because Isaac the freezer versus basically the whole entire military for like the whole first episode. I'm gonna put this one in S tier. And I still think, and I'm even gonna like even more so, I'm gonna put this above this fight here, because I have not yet seen a fight, and this is the first episode, right? So like this is the basis of what I would suspect, everything else would be like, and I haven't yet seen a fight that has like rose up to this one. And it was so surprising to me, especially when Isaac at one point when he was fighting Edward, he basically uses blood bending from himself by like shooting out blood from his shoulder to stab Edward. And I was like, that like blew my mind. Like the first time I watched it, I thought that was really, really clever, really cool. Also, there's a huge spectacle of like all the ice converging on the central command, and then of course the end fight with Bradley and him just being way too fast for Isaac the freezer. Again, you get to see Armstrong in there too. I think Mustang, I forget the guy's name, that you guys all say like he's a really cool character, but I'm like, I haven't seen anything from him yet. You guys have watched the entire show. I have not, so I don't have like these affiliations with these characters. But all of it, everything was a fantastic spectacle, like great pacing and fighting. I think I like that one quite a bit. And then the last one we have is Scar versus the military, in particular his fight with Armstrong. And I think I'm going to put this one in A. I like this one a lot, especially because we got to see the internal thoughts of Scar and how he's not just more powerful than people because he's just like, oh, he's more powerful. Like, that's just how he is. He's a thinker, too. Very similar to how Edward is a thinker. So, too, is Scar when he's, at least put on his back foot. Because when he's not, being freaking OP with his, like, making people jelly or whatever, he has to put his thinking cap on and to know that he was waiting for a certain move for Armstrong to like come with the hook and then him to come in on it. Like, I love stuff like that. Like that's my jam in fight scenes. So yeah, that is going to be my list for all of the fight scenes in the first 13 episodes. I'm sure these will possibly change when I revisit them at the end of the series. In terms of like ranking, in terms of the tiers, I agree with this S tier here. I'm definitely going to put the freezer fight as like the premier one. For this, I think I would slide over this fight in the sewer. I'll put that right there. I would say I would put this one here. No, maybe even this one here actually. I'm gonna put this one right here. And then yeah, that seems pretty good. And then for these like mid-tier fights, they're kind of hard. I think I really do like the spectacle of this one, so I'm gonna put this one right here. And then I like this training one too, so that goes here. And I think that one feels right. And everything else feels pretty right. So that's my list as it is right now. But let me know, for you guys who are those Full Metal Alchemist fans out there, what would your list be? If you want to do this tier list maker too, I have a link in the description box below. Or you can just type out, which fight scenes you like, just based on what I said. But I'll see you guys on the next one. As always, you can see more videos here on the side of my face. Peace, love, and remember, one is all, and all is one.